The film begins with a scene where a woman is being forcefully fed something. Then the focus shifts to a restaurant where a chef named Shefi is introduced. She is the head chef but does not wish to continue in this role. She has decided to open her own restaurant. She visits her manager to say a final goodbye. The hotel, Shefi manages everything well and the manager is not ready to let her leave. He even tries to lure her with extra money. However, Shefi has made up her mind and leaves after announcing her final decision. The next morning, Shefi reaches a special place in the forest, selected for her new restaurant. The place used to be a restaurant before, but she does not know why it was shut down. While visiting the location, she discovers a garden in the backyard, likely planted by the former chef. While looking at the garden, she sees an old lady. Suddenly, a sound comes from behind, and when she turns back, the old lady disappears, leaving Shefi disturbed. Soon, Andrews, her business partner, arrives. He takes her to a jungle-themed restaurant to gather inspiration for their own place. There, they meet another chef named Lucia, who will be working with them. While eating, Andrews tells them that some investors are coming on Sunday, and both chefs are responsible for preparing an impressive menu. Shefi returns home and spends the night searching recipes and planning the menu. She stays at the Forest Hotel and hears a frightening noise at night. When she checks, no one is outside or in the backyard. But as she re-enters the lounge, she finds a picture of the same old woman she saw earlier. Before she can take a closer look, she sees the woman's shadow in the window. When she approaches, she finds nobody and becomes extremely anxious. To calm herself, she takes stress relief tablets and prepares some cooking tasks before going to bed. The next morning begins smoothly. Everything is prepped and the dough has risen perfectly. But suddenly, she notices movement in the dough. Upon opening it, she finds hundreds of insects inside. All the food she prepared overnight has become moldy. Shocked and panicked, knowing the investors are arriving that evening, she asks her helper, Alvin, to bring new ingredients. However, she faces bad luck. She cannot get all the required supplies from the market. In haste, she prepares basic restaurant-style dishes, unable to make anything special. The investors are not very impressed with the initial dishes. But Shefi has created a unique dessert, hoping it will win them over. As she serves it, insects begin crawling out of it too. An old man tries to eat it, but she slaps his hand away. To justify her actions, she claims the spoon was too hot and offers to bring a new one. Following the unimpressive dishes and the strange incident, the investors give a mediocre review. They say everything feels too ordinary and suggest trying something more exciting. Shefi becomes deeply upset. This moment, one investor encourages her not to give up and start working on a new menu. Shefi becomes furious. Shefi is deeply stressed. An evening falls amid all the tension. That evening, she hears the same strange sound coming from behind the garden. This time, she decides to confront whatever it is and even takes a knife, determined to kill if needed. As she steps outside, she finds only a rabbit. While chasing the rabbit, she ends up at a strange place with a gate. The rabbit enters and she follows. Inside, she discovers an unusual but incredibly beautiful garden. She has never seen such plants or fruits before. When she picks one fruit to examine, she finds the same insects inside it that had appeared in her dough earlier. Frightened by the sight, she trips on something and falls, hitting her head on a hard stone. Before passing out, she glimpses an old woman speaking to her. Later, she regains consciousness on her bed, covered in dirt-stained clothes. Before she can make sense of anything, Andrews visits and informs her that the investors disliked the food. They suggest replacing the chef in order to proceed with the investment. This angers Shefi even more, as she has sacrificed her job, life savings, and everything for this restaurant. Shefi calms herself and requests Andrews to give her 2 more weeks to improve things. She begins cooking daily, but the food never turns out delicious. She cannot figure out where she is going wrong. That day, she finds a fruit in the pocket of the jacket she wore in the garden. Curious, she sets it aside and resumes cooking, but the food still lacks flavor. In frustration, she throws it all away and finally tastes the mysterious fruit. The fruit tastes extraordinary. sparks an idea to use fruits from the garden in her recipes. Without hesitation, she grabs a knife and returns to the garden. She samples different parts of all the plants and finds each one delicious, including the leaves. She documents the tastes and starts forming notes on how each plant can contribute to different dishes. On one of the garden trees, she notices a strange symbol. She recalls seeing the same symbol in the picture of the old lady at home. She theorizes that perhaps the garden once belonged to that woman and that there is a connection between the garden and the symbol. While searching the house, she finds a book containing information about all the plants in the garden, which helps her greatly. Shefi begins using ingredients from the garden to prepare food and asks her sous chef to taste it. The chef is shocked by how an ordinary dish tastes so amazing and asks Shefi where she got the ingredients. Shefi lies, saying a friend gave them to her, avoiding any mention of the garden. One day, while they are chatting, they spot an old man near the garden. Shefi immediately stands up, eager to question him. But before she can reach him, the man disappears. Later, Alvin tells Shefi that such occurrences are common in the area. He explains that the place was once home to a witch who created the garden. The witch would extract juice from the plants and use it to control people, forcing them to stay with her. Eventually, the secret got out, and when villagers came to check the place, the witch fled. Afterward, the garden was infected by insects. Alvin assures Shefi not to worry, saying it's all old folklore and no one knows how much of it is true. But Shefi admits she believes it. She has seen the old woman herself, if only for a moment. Shefi now begins tending the garden, just as the old woman seems to want. For several days she looks after the garden, and at night she takes notes based on the flavors of its plants to use in her restaurant's menu. The bottom of her notes and menu she draws the same symbol she saw on the tree in the garden and in the picture of the old woman. The moment she draws the symbol, a strange sound is heard, this time coming from the basement. She goes inside and finds a tunnel where several garden-related items are stored. While examining them, a terrifying hand reaches toward her. Startled, she sees the woman again, repeating the same request, to protect the garden. The entire scene is horrifying. Shefi rushes back to her room, deeply frightened, and ends up with a fever due to the experience. Yet the very next day she resumes work. Using ingredients from the garden, she prepares dishes that impress Andrews so much that he decides to have a grand opening of the hotel the following week. He holds a meeting with the chefs and staff. After the meeting, when Shefi enters the kitchen, she finds food scattered everywhere and hears a strange voice. As she approaches, she sees a man biting off and eating his own finger. Horrified, Shefi screams. Andrews rushes in upon hearing her and recognizes the man, immediately calling for an ambulance. Lucia reveals that this man was once the head chef of the hotel, who had created an extraordinary menu like Shefi. However, he went insane for unknown reasons, and the restaurant had to be shut down. It was Andrews who had previously bought the place and was now reopening it with Shefi. Shefi recalls the diary that contained detailed notes about the garden plants and their flavors, notes that had helped her immensely. She realizes the diary belonged to that same chef who had gone mad. The diary also contains disturbing sketches. Shefi too begins experiencing hallucinations and visions, realizing that these are caused by the garden's plants. Fearing for her sanity, she decides to stop using them. She storms into the kitchen, orders a halt to all work, discards all ingredients sourced from the garden, and burns her menu and notes that included details of the garden and its symbol. As soon as she burns the symbol, she feels a presence rushing toward her. When she turns, she comes face to face with the terrifying face of the old woman. Screaming, she flees into the forest in fear. Terrified, she starts uprooting and discarding all the garden plants. She even throws away the old lady's photo kept in her kitchen. The next morning, when the other chefs arrive, Shefi insists on changing the entire menu. This leads to a conflict with Lucia, who quits in anger. Afterward, Shefi throws away all remaining garden ingredients and informs her team they will now work on a new menu. While working, she accidentally cuts off an entire finger but does not even feel the pain. Onlookers are baffled. Something bizarre is clearly going on. When Andrews enters the kitchen to announce the arrival of special guests, he is shocked to see the chaos. Upon discovering that Shefi has changed the menu at the last minute, a heated argument breaks out between them. Andrews walks away to greet the guests while Shefi begins to hallucinate again. She imagines insects crawling out of her mouth and cuts on her hands from which bugs emerge. When another chef brings a dish for tasting, Shefi sees it filled with fungus. However, this time she controls her emotions, realizing it is just a hallucination. She instructs them to serve the dish without tasting it herself. This turns out to be her biggest mistake. The dish contains seafood, which one of the guests is allergic to, a fact Shefi already knew. The guest suffers a severe reaction and struggles to breathe. Panic spreads, and the restaurant faces public embarrassment once again. Andrews becomes furious. Andrews angrily tells Shefi that he has spent his entire savings on the restaurant, and she ruins its reputation on the very first day. This deeply saddens Shefi as well. The next morning, she wakes up with new hope, determined to make things right. She notices that Lucia, who had left the day before, has returned. She thanks her, unaware that Andrews is the one who convinced her to come back. Andrews informs Shefi that the investors now demand she be replaced as head chef. Otherwise, they will not invest. He asks her to leave the place for good. Shefi, enraged, begins shouting. Andrews grabs her hand and takes her to the basement near the wine stock room. As she lashes out in anger, she reminds him of everything she has sacrificed, her savings, experience, and job. She cleaned and rebuilt the restaurant alone, made it functional again, and now he wants to remove her? In her fury, Shefi grabs a handlecock and heads toward the kitchen, but Andrews captures her and locks her in a jail-like room. Shefi screams for help, but no one comes. Outside, when Lucia asks about Shefi's whereabouts, Andrews lies that she took her payment and left. He appoints the returning her as the new head chef, but she lacks the skill to handle such a major event. Meanwhile, Shefi struggles to escape. From the basement vent, she hears cars and shouts for help, but no one hears her. She finds a small door leading to a tunnel, but the outer door is locked. She sits inside the tunnel in despair. Suddenly, the ground trembles violently. Shefi becomes frightened but notices another hidden door appearing before her, leading to another tunnel. Carrying a candle, she cautiously moves forward and discovers the corpse of a woman. Shocked, she tries to retreat, but the path behind her is blocked with soil. With no choice but to move ahead, she bravely steps over the corpse and realizes it belongs to the same old woman from the picture in her home. On the wall, she reads the woman's writing, stating that after death, humans and creatures become nourishment for the soil. She expresses her wish to become energy for the garden after death. Scenes flash back to the film's opening, several women trying to force something on another woman. But it's revealed they were not harming her, they were treating her. The sick woman had a high fever no doctor could cure. The old woman was using herbs from her garden to heal her. She knew every plant and its purpose. That garden, her creation, was her life's passion. While treating the woman, villagers misunderstood the scene and tried to attack her. Rather than die at their hands, the old woman chose to become one with her garden. She dug a tunnel, lay down in it, and passed away, becoming nourishment for her plants. Shefi experiences these visions, seemingly shared through the old woman's powers. Shefi deeply feels the woman's emotional bond with the garden, mirroring her own connection to the restaurant. The scene shifts back to the garden where a hand emerges from the tunnel. It's Shefi, who has found the way out. She sees the familiar rabbit again and picks it up, then starts eating the fruits from the garden. Back in the kitchen, chaos reigns without Shefi. The guests are angry due to the delay and are about to leave. Andrews is clueless about what to do. At that moment, Shefi enters through the kitchen's back door, covered in dirt and exhausted. She walks in, tastes the food, and declares it awful. She announces she will now show what real food is. Her culinary mentors are present to witness her performance. Shefi invites the guests outside if they want to experience real flavor. All guests follow her. Seeing this, Andrews instructs his staff to set up tables in the garden. Shefi lights a fire in the center of the garden and prepares soup using the rabbit. She brings various ingredients from the garden, and the other chefs join her in preparing new dishes. They serve the food to the guests. Everyone is amazed by the taste. They have never eaten anything like it. Even the investor who once wanted Shefi replaced is impressed. Her mentors are thrilled with her creations. All guests enjoy their meals, and Shefi feels immense joy watching them. She knows everything happened because of the woman and her garden. Now Shefi, too, is deeply attached to the garden. She cuts open a red fruit and finds the same symbol inside. The one she had drawn on her menu, the one etched in the garden, and the one the woman wore as a ring which Shefi had taken. It becomes clear that Shefi is now destined to carry on the old woman's duties. And with this realization, the story ends. I hope you liked my video. If you did, please like and share it. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We keep bringing such content regularly. Peace.